That unmistakable Kiwi war cry is supposed to strike fear into the hearts and chill the blood of any challenger, though there will always be the rare exception. Last Sunday at Auckland's Mount Smart Stadium, the 70th league clash between Australia and New Zealand produced a cliffhanger result after Sean Hoppe had earlier threatened to KO the Kangaroos.
There is real trouble now.
The hits were horrendous.
Nikau marked up on Sheridan.
Some were even debatable. And while the home side led by one for most of the second half, it was left to Laurie Daly to balance the ledger.
Look together, unbelievable stuff. And it is 14-all.
There are scores to settle from game one, but the return of captain courageous Mal Meninga is a big plus for the Green Machine. The Seven Network welcomes you to Palmerston North and the second test between Australia and New Zealand.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Palmerston North in New Zealand for the return encounter between the world champs Australia and New Zealand. Now, we're going to have to take you straight to the bad news. It has been an horrendous day here in Palmerston North, close enough to the Antarctic, I would like to think. It has been falling down all day long. A capacity crowd of 19,000 was expected. Most of them, rather incredibly, have already turned up and been sitting in the rain for about an hour and a half to 2 hours prior to the kickoff. The field has been covered in water right throughout the day as well. It is going to be a struggle, and it is going to be a real key as far as this second test is concerned. Well, our commentary team back with us again, Michael O'Connor sideline, and the former Kiwi coach himself, Graham Lowe. Gentlemen, nice to have you aboard. Michael O'Connor, the weather is made for a sideline commentator.
Well, Graham, it's not that dissimilar to a 1990 test match in Parkes, Australia, where Australia played France. It really is quite cold down there. I've got my mittens on, and they're going to really have to get in the trenches tonight, the Australians, to win this game. There's a lot of danger signs out there for them.
All right, well, how do you see it?
I think that they've got to control the ball a lot better. Bob Fulton was very critical in the first test of their ball handling. They've got to control the ball better, work better field position, and they can improve in their defence. But the most important thing is field position, because there's not going to be a lot of tries scored out there. They're going to have to get good field position with Daryl Halligan, not give away too many penalties, because it could very well come down to penalties.
Well, it was a big night over here in Auckland during the week for the former Kiwi coach Graham Lowe. A fabulous career for him when he was in charge of the Kiwis, Wigan, of course, and also Manly Ringer. Graham Lowe, I know it was a big night for you. This is your life tribute, quite a special occasion. It must have been something very special.
Yeah, it was just out of the blue, totally unexpected, and just fantastic. I can't describe it. I'm still coming to grips with it.
Well, congratulations from everybody. Are you now looking for something special from your Kiwis?
Yeah, well, I think the Kiwis showed on Sunday with a side that really isn't as good as the Australian side. I think man for man, they're not as good as the Aussies. But on Sunday, they came up with a performance based on guts, based on spirit. They had better field position than Australia, and they were able to draw the game. It was an alarming rate to me, the way they dropped off tackles. They were dropping off the tackles at probably 3-1 compared to Australia, but they did go well.
In these conditions, big advantage for them?
Well, I think they prefer it a little drier, but field position's the key. Michael said field position. Field position, and who can ever do the torpedoes the best, not the bombs.
Well, they've got the world champs looking back over their shoulders in this series. Let's take you back to last Sunday. Mount Smart Stadium and a 14-all draw.
Playing on home soil against the Australians, the Kiwis were revved up for a big match at Mount Smart Stadium. 2 years ago, the New Zealanders had shocked the Australians with a first test win in Melbourne, and bolstered by a parochial hometown crowd, they were intent on repeating history.
Any good play from any side are having the better of it. That is what's required.
The defence was bone-shattering. The Kiwis determined not to let the Australians in. But after holding the tourists for 10 minutes, the New Zealand defence cracked just enough to let Dale Shearer in. Leading 6-2, stand-in captain Laurie Daly gave the Australians some much-needed breathing space with a field goal.
Daly shapes for 1 point. He is happy.
But it wasn't enough. Kiwi skipper Gary Freeman setting up a try for Sean Hoppe.
Hoppe gets a good bounce. What a great try.
With the aid of superboot Daryl Halligan, the New Zealanders were in front, and they extended the lead in the 30th minute when Hoppe went in again.
Sean Hoppe's gone. Here comes Shearer. Here comes Khan. The chase is on. Forget about it.
4 minutes later, the Australians seemed to provide the answer when Steve Walters crossed, only to be denied by referee Russell Smith.
Steve Walters, no try.
Frustration turned to delight when Walters planted the ball just before half-time, the Kiwis hanging on to a 14-13 lead.
Steve Walters from dummy half, steals a try.
The second half started like the first, the defence from both sides refusing to buckle.
Brilliantly.
Because it was only one player. What a hit.
With 30 minutes to go, the Kiwis seem to have sealed the match, but just like the Australians, referee Smith ruled a no try.
Did he get it down? No.
With 3 minutes to go, the Kiwis were still clinging to a 1-point lead when Daly tied it up.
It's Daly. Daly grabs it. Locked together. Unbelievable stuff.
The Australians had salvaged a draw, but the Kiwis had shown once again that they shouldn't be taken lightly.
Well, of course, that is the big issue. Mal Meninga back with his influence on this Australian team. Michael O'Connor, how important is he? But he is risking a back injury. A lot of people are saying it's not quite 100%.
Oh, I think Mal's okay. He has an enormous responsibility, Mal, as captain, and also replacing Steve Renouf. I think he's going to be more effective than a smaller, quicker player. In these sort of conditions, he's got to play as an extra forward and really motivate the rest of his forward. We saw last week in the wet conditions, fast players like Renouf, Shearer really brought back to the field, and Mal Meninga faces arguably his biggest task as captain of the Australian side tonight.
Confident the Australians?
I'm not confident. No, I think it's going to be a close win to Australia. I'm very worried about Daryl Halligan and his kicking.
Okay, well, the Kiwis, of course, coming into this test have made a couple of changes, most notably at 5'8" with Tony Kemp, the man from Newcastle, and also Gavin Hill going into the pack of forwards, Quinton Pongia, out of the squad. Graham Lowe, how have you seen the Kiwi changes?
Well, I think they're quite good changes. Kemp in particular, that could prove very, very beneficial to the Kiwis. He's a strong defender. He's got a good kicking game. He's like an extra forward out on the edge of the ruck, and I think he'll play a significant part in the game.
All right, well, let's take a look at both lineups going into this second test. From fullback, it reads Morven Edwards and Shearer unchanged. Tamati looking for a big win here tonight up against Bobby Fulton. Well, it is up.
I'm sick of this fight.
Yes, sir. At Palmerston North, quite sensational. Absolute capacity, even after all of this rain right throughout the day. Just waiting for the Australians to make the long walk out under the steadying influence in this return encounter of Mal Meninga.
Yeah, well, Mal's certainly going to make a difference, I think, to this side, because they did do a few rash things. They did try and force the pass when it wasn't on. He's only a young captain, Laurie Daly, last week, but the experience of Mal Meninga is going to mean a lot to Australia tonight.
John Mooney joins us again for this second test. John, what are you expecting tonight here?
Well, I think it'll be very rugged in the forwards, and I think Australia will look to Mal Meninga, but I think the fullbacks are under a fair bit of pressure as well, and with the wet conditions, I'd hate to be the number one.
19,000 was the ticket sales leading up to this. And the Australians receive, as you would expect, a mild or less than mild reaction. They are the world champions, and tonight they have to show everybody that they are down to the best business they can show. Meninga and Langer will have to be keeping it cool, but keeping their cool, and they have been on edge right throughout the week in Palmerston North, is this Kiwi team who have a Great Britain tour ahead of them in October. A side that has been building now for quite a few years. They are starting to threaten the international stage. The atmosphere here, everything is building rather dramatically. They will walk out as national heroes. Lowy, this is a rather deliberate and slow walk, but an awkward entrance for the players. That's a disgrace.
It is. It's very difficult. The players have got to concentrate at this stage. They've got to try and keep their minds on the job. Very difficult to do when you are being pushed and shoved around. Even other people want you to do well, there's a time and a place for it. Not out there now.
Jared McCracken up against Big Mal Meninga. The young bull against the old bull. The experienced halfback, Freeman. The veteran Test campaigner up against Alan Langer, one of, if not the best in the world. Gavin Hill, the man from Canterbury Bankstown in Sydney, back after suspension. He will be out to keep his place in the team throughout. Thankfully for everybody, the rain has stopped. Although Michael O'Connor is going to have a rather cold one here tonight's sideline.
Good evening, Graham. It is cold down here, there's no doubt about that. It's a long way Palmerston North from Noosa, but the rain has subsided, and I mean, look, the reception was just thunderous down here on the sideline. Look for a great opening 5 or 10 minutes.
We all do. And both teams now setting themselves for the national anthems.
The Australian national anthem.
The Australians looking a lot more on edge than they were this time last weekend. The Australians being on edge, but the New Zealanders really will receive a sensational lift here.
In the arms of love, hear our voices, we entreat. God defend our free land. Make her praises heard afar. God defend New Zealand.
Fantastic atmosphere. The second test. New Zealand at home to Australia. A match that could very well set this series absolutely alight. Palmerston North in New Zealand, where the temperatures have plummeted today and this evening. And now the haka to set it all alight. The two Canterbury men, McCracken and Hill, wish each other the best. Meninga to steady the World Championship, try and find a true course after the opener at Mount Smart Stadium. Halligan, what a role he might play in the wet with his kicking. Any chance at goal might be a winning one. And just as important, Mr. Russell Smith, the referee from Great Britain. Halligan to get us underway. Sit back and enjoy. Willie Kahn with the first touch. They will pour in inside the 20. All mistakes absolutely vital in this area tonight. Langer to dummy half. Away to Harrigan. Just how important will it be for the Australians to get over the advantage line? Russell Smith did not like a high swinging arm, and Harrigan resented it just as much.
Well, a lot of intensity straight up for Tony Kemp. Put in to strengthen the inside backs, but that's not the way to do it for Mr. Kemp.
Fittler gets it out near halfway for the Australians. Lazarus creates some damage behind the line and takes them 40 metres out. Sirinen running across the ruck. He puts Nikau back. That is the get square from the first test. Lindner, the Australian forwards, trying to take over from the start. Langer looking for runners. Harrigan wants some more. They're gaining good ground from each play the ball. Quickly out of there is Steve Walters. Looked for support but could not unload. Langer in behind the line, off the knees. What a pick-up from Kemp. Where's the support? Here comes Hoppy. That gives you an idea of just how much water is lying about. Penalty had to come. Here comes Halligan. Right from the start. The bounce of the ball sets up nicely. And New Zealand with a real break.
Well, fantastic skills here. Good kick from Alfie Langer, but it hit one of our players. Tony Kemp has already paid for his room with that pick-up. He gave us a good advantage, gained a quick 50 metres. Didn't quite get the ball out to show to Hoppy, who was looming up on his outside. But the thing is, it's forced the penalty, and it's given the Kiwis the opportunity of 2 points.
Just outside the 20. And Halligan will try and continue his incredible sequence of goals. Darryl Halligan ensconced with the North Sydney lineup, and a man who has a percentage of 88%. What a record. Halligan, about 11 metres in from the sideline, trying to bring the house down early. What a start. What a goal kicker. New Zealand grabbed a break. 2-0. The restart for the Australians. Some of them looked offside from that kickoff. Solomona, head down, charges straight in. Right on the 20. Todd, straight up to middle. Now they look back for the kick. Looking out wide for the sideline. Shearer has to chase and steady his own feet. He returns the favour. We are set for a kicking duel here if Morven Edwards keeps his cool. He does. Doesn't quite meet it as he would have liked. The Kiwis have to stay 10 metres back. They're not. Shearer nearly could have milked it for a penalty, but he goes to some wide open spaces. That's a good kick. Back to his own line, Edwards. Gets support from Halligan. The Australians are cribbing. They're picking up metres. They win on points.
Well, it was a great kicking duel, that. But I'm pleased to see that Halligan got back for New Zealand's sake, because Shearer had the better of that kicking duel. But with Halligan coming in, certainly relieved the pressure off the New Zealand line.
Michael O'Connell just watching Shearer. They really have been checking the footing, both teams.
There's no doubt about that. A very tentative start from Australia. I mean, that kick from Alan Langer wasn't a good one. They've really got to gain some authority shortly in this game.
Daly tries to do it. That kick will be too long. I was about to say way too long. It stopped dead. Unbelievable amount of water in the in goal. Interesting, this kick.
Yeah, it just looked like a kick that had too much juice on it. It looked like it was going out of the ground, and as we see there, just rolled on the dead ball line.
It was nearly real dangerous for Morven Edwards. Now, New Zealand, 35 out from their own line. Solomona as a decoy went left. They stayed on the right-hand side. Now another kick. Halligan forced to go to his left boot. Shearer thinking again about the kick. Waltzes a couple of steps, then he decides to run. Now he will force all his forward pack to try and hurry back to get behind him. Bradley Clyde. Bobby Lindner. Langer to Harrigan. They switch back to Fittler, trying to set himself for a sidestep. Langer. Plenty of time with the kick. He decides on a midfield bomb. The Kiwis fly high and come up with it. Hoppy off his wing. Crunched over the top by Sirinen, loses the ball back. Halligan taken by Fittler. This is the dangerous area. Todd out near the sideline. Solomona, one out, but right up the middle slips a good ball. Freeman to Nikau. They thought there was a chance if they could get it out wide. Difficult ball. Kept alive by Kemp, now inside. Last tackle. Mercer kicking. Not a good kick. They give it back to the Australians already near halfway. Shearer gets a call to go wide. Early tackles. Clyde back inside to Fittler. Good open play from the Australians, even in these conditions. Lazarus. Langer wants to go to the back line, but Hancock off his wing. Good gain from him. He looks to get on with things quickly and milks it for the penalty. Crowd don't like it, but it's reminiscent of Jared McCracken last Sunday at Mount Smart, who was just as clever in picking it up 2 or 3 times from the referee.
Good play from Australia. They've had a number of quick play the balls. New Zealand was trying to slow it down. It was very good work then from Michael Hancock. Milked a good penalty for Australia in a vital time out in front of the post.
Hancock, the man that milked it. Already this big crowd at Palmerston North putting the heat on Shearer. If you can on a night like this. .32 out. He's looking down the barrel at the post. Looking for 2 to square accounts. He does not mean it at all. A huge roar. Scoreline remains as it was. 2-0 New Zealand. On the fly, 30 out from the Australian line. Sirman tries to smash right through. He gets to the 50. Steve Walters was left alone. 2 quick plays and they're back in Kiwi territory. More of a roll through Bobby Lindner as New Zealand drop off some tackles. Langer. Daly. Inside to Meninga. Great tackle down low. That was Freeman. The spread is on for Langer. The change of direction again. High tackle. And another chance for Shearer. Russell Smith maintaining the consistency.
Yeah, Gary Mercer was up very high on that shot, and the players have just got to realise this referee's going to penalise this week for high tackles. Last week there was complaints from both coaches about the high tackles that went unchecked, and the holding down penalties were there. Now the high tackle penalties.
The penalties, 3-1 Australia. Dale Shearer, unsuccessful just a minute ago. 27 years of age, Shearer, a professional footballer, the fullback from the Gold Coast. Again, he's looking down the barrel, trying to pick up 50%. This time he will. Shearer nails it. And the Trans-Tasman neighbours 2 apiece. Restart for the Kiwis. Halligan. And a pretty confident start for both sides in the fact that the mistake rate really with the hands is remarkably low so far, John.
Yeah, they've controlled the ball really well. The penalties is thing now. Both teams need to try and play out 6 tackles without giving away a penalty, and especially these kick-off things, you know, where the other team needs to get out of their own half. You don't give away a penalty when you're down there.
40 metres out from the Australian line. Clyde takes on Solomona. Wondering if the Kiwis might just have a little problem out there with John Lomax warming up sideline. Halligan knocks it down. Daly rushes in once he played at that. Watson. There's the mistakes. There were few. But that is the area that might cost somebody. Right near their own 20.
Graham, if there was a criticism of Australia in the first test, apart from their ball handling, it was that they didn't offload the ball enough. Not as many times as New Zealand. New Zealand have shown early in this game that they are prepared to offload in the forwards and the backs, and they're prepared to chance their arm.
Well, the draw suited Australia in the first one. Now they chance it. McCracken with a punishing tackle. He cops some treatment as he tries to get to his feet, but that was beautifully read by McCracken.
Great tackle by Jared McCracken. The New Zealand outside backs are going to have to be careful because Laurie Daly is drifting across the field, changing the angle of the support players. Meninga coming on the inside and also having the option of Daly. A dangerous area that New Zealand's going to have to be wary of.
Langer. Here's another. Sirinen, great support play. Right in front of the post, the Kiwis stretched. First real chance for either team. Langer stepping, bobbing and weaving. With the big hands of Gavin Hill puts him down. Last tackle. Shearer called on the shorter side. Were they all onside? Halligan back into his own in goal. Great recovery.
A super play from Dale Shearer. He read that perfectly. 5th tackle, put it to the in goal, and another set of 6 tackles for Australia.
Yeah, we saw in the last test, Dale Shearer went for a long pass on the 6th tackle. He smartened up a little bit, learned his lesson and kicked the ball into the in goal. Good move.
Unfortunate for Halligan. He trapped that ball about a metre or more out from his own line. He ended up about 6 metres into the in goal. Bradley Clyde went into the first test with a doubt over his right knee. Got through the game strongly. Meninga, a doubt about his back injury. That is a good tackle coming off his wing from Hoppy. The Australians with a good flow of possession. Harrigan standing wide, taken by Gavin Hill low and Mercer over the top. Langer smartly trying to keep things alive. He's looking for the plays quickly. Back once again as Langer too to take over. Going wide to Clyde. But they were standing still when they took that one, a bit flat-footed. Easily picked off by the Kiwis. Last tackle, short side for Meninga to work with Willie Kahn. He's great in the air. Knocked back by Kahn, and Morgan Edwards has the dregs. Now he calls a knock-on against New Zealand. Russell Smith has got it wrong. What a vital call.
This was a crucial call. No way in the world that was a knock-on against the Kiwis. Very hard done by them.
Langer with the scrum feed. The Australians on the attack. Daly. Meninga again on the inside. The Kiwis have been under pressure for a long time. Plenty of possession for the Australians. Langer, 15 metres or more wide from that play of the ball. Daly. Shearer needed one more pass. They still keep it alive to Fittler. Fittler out to Hancock. Hancock taken. 3 Kiwis across in cover. They are hanging on, but they're stretched. They headed towards the post, the Australians. The chant going up around the showgrounds in Palmerston for Kiwis. Daly kicking. It is too deep again. They survive and they handled it well.
New Zealand did handle that well. That was probably the best defensive effort that New Zealand has come up with so far in the 1 1/4 test that we've been able to watch. They have been under enormous pressure, but they stuck together. They back one another up. Halligan in particular over on the right wing is working very, very hard, but New Zealand has got to gain field position. They can't keep out much longer.
John, a real confidence booster for New Zealand. That tough passage of play where Australia had a mile of possession, and look at this.
Yeah, I think they did very well there. The ball in the air is going to be a problem, though. I thought the New Zealand fullback knocked that ball forward, and you know, if they put mistakes in like that, the Australians get 12 tackles on them. You know, something usually gives.
Fine kick. Still, possession will come for Australia, though. 45 tackles overall for the Australians. And now a penalty on the end of this. Tony Kemp gives away another one. Russell Smith says for holding down.
Yeah, you just can't afford to get good field position like Graham was talking about before and then give it up. And every time you give away a penalty when you get down there, whether it's early or late in the tackle count, it's just dumb play.
Freeman was arguing with the touch judge that one was touched before it went over the sideline.
Graham, I think it's very important for New Zealand, from New Zealand's point of view, that one or a couple of those forwards have got to come up with a big hit.
Look at the break from Steve Walters, right up the middle. Nearly got away. They are only 8 metres out. Harrigan throws himself at the line, 5 metres away.
The New Zealand forwards are waiting back. They've got to move up.
Clyde quickly to Langer, to Daly. Daly tries his own talents, tried to back himself, but great defence. Meninga calling for runners. Langer ducks. Sets the ball up for Shearer, who's staying in the line. They're down to the last. Daly to Meninga. Lindner to Clyde. Just too much pressure. Too much possession. And as professionally done as you could ever hope to see by the Australians. They had the numbers. They worked it to grab the first try.
Great passage of play this by Australia. Alfie Langer did a lot of work early on, but Laurie Daly getting the ball away quickly there to Meninga, having forwards running out in the backs as support players. that's what they've been able to bring the try about for them. Very, very professionally done.
Yeah, Australia just had the numbers out here. Too many players, and the execution was good. Caught Hoppy out of position, and like I said, New Zealand just didn't have the defence out wide.
Yeah, simple weight of possession. You'll find that New Zealand have had to do a lot more tackling than Australia in this first stanza of the game. But just good ball movement there. Sean Hoppy didn't know what was going on. Turned inside out, and Willie Kahn was still on his outside, so men to spare.
Bradley Clyde grabs his 4th try in Test football against New Zealand.
He's had a far more impact in this Test than he did in the first 20 minutes of the first Test, Graham.
Certainly has. Shearer. About 5 metres in from the sideline. 50% so far. Difficult angle and all. He will have to start it all over again. The Australian bench, umbrellas in hand, doing their best to stay warm. They all watch on intently as Shearer tries to bring this one round. It is on its way. Sensational goal. The world champions stretch it to 8-2 as the Australians grab the real first break. Halligan with a restart. Willie Kahn. No territory at all. Nothing down the end other than the early penalty and goal for New Zealand to show.
The ground field position, that's the key. That the New Zealand forwards are waiting. The Australian forwards are on top at this stage. They're coming from a deep position, hitting the ball on the advantage line. The New Zealand defence is just waiting back for them. A run like that, even though it doesn't look much, it's gained them 2 metres over the advantage line. Very, very important.
Charge down. There could be 6 more. New Zealand knocked this one on. They couldn't grab it back. Still they look for the ball. Still they look for possession in the Australian side of halfway.
Yeah, here we see Australia's kicking the ball from fairly shallow, and as Dwayne Mann comes out of the line and knocks it down. But that's a tough break for New Zealand. Again, Australia get another 6.
A bit of a concern for Australia in the fact they don't have a backup kicker. They're just using Dale Shearer at the moment with no support.
Daly inside to Meninga. Possession in the opposition half. Quite unbelievable. A simple and single tackle only for the Kiwis.
And normally, you'd think with that much possession in the opposition half, Australia, with the talent they do have, would have been further in front.
Langer. Lazarus drags defenders inside the 40 metres. Steve Walters is creating trouble from dummy half. He is sending them and turning them around quickly all the time. Langer in behind the line. The Australians still have it, and they've got 6 more. New Zealand really under pressure. 11 metres out. Langer very wide to Daly. The ball is clear. Halligan had an opportunity, I thought, to kick that ahead. He was the first man easily to the ball.
Bit of a decision there from Daryl Halligan. I think that he wasn't certain what he was going to do, whether he was going to kick it or just try and pick it up. But in the end, his technique let him down. New Zealand once more right under the hammer.
More possession. Shearer is living in the front line. He cops a high one from Watson. Lindner, the forwards from Australia, always quick to the play of the ball. Clyde, stepping, strong tackle, head on from McCracken. He got assistance over the top from Dwayne Mann. Langer. 3 defenders grab Langer right on the 20. Meninga takes over, chipping ahead for Daly and finds open space. Halligan does a little bit of a dance on his own line. Walked a tight rope, managed to get back into the field of play. Edwards. They are being forced back into their own in goal. Now, Daly was never onside as the marker, but New Zealand come up with a real pressure play. Hoppy. Battle of inches at the moment for New Zealand. Gavin Hill takes it outside the 20, but they are run out of tackles. Halligan tries to get it away from Shearer, but once again the Australians already in New Zealand territory.
New Zealand defence has been working overtime, but it's got to try and lift up a gear, get into another cog and force an error. Some of the Kiwi forwards, or at least one of the Kiwi forwards, has got to come up with a big aggressive hit and try and stun this Australian side. They've got too much of a roll on.
Lazarus continues the roll. Langer does out wide to Daly. Inside to Meninga. Meninga down to the last line, getting rid of defenders left, right and centre. If you wanted an answer about the back injury, it's okay.
Put that down to Glenn Lazarus. He's making great yards up the middle, and he's getting onto his feet very quickly.
Langer to Daly. Daly floats it. Difficult ball, sits up nicely in the end for Hancock to step and go right through. New Zealand once more back to their own line. Last tackle. Langer behind the line, it's still a chance. Beautifully grabbed. Great play from Hoppy. Hoppy's in trouble though. A penalty for New Zealand at a time when they were desperate.
Yeah, Alan Langer put a little ball around the back, and Sean Hoppy, very brave there, dives in on that ball, and you know, no two minds about it, straight in on the loose ball.
Also, they had numbers again, Australia, if the ball had have set up. New Zealand, understandably, are tiring under all this possession for Australia. Hoppy is okay as Todd just hits it up. It would be ironic if they cross the 50-metre line. Solomona takes them there, somewhere where they probably can't remember being before. Gavin Hill likewise, down to the 40. They've soaked up the heat at the other end. They want a chance down here. Freeman cross-kicking to Shearer. Tarawanikau is coming. Shearer takes it well. Now it's Australia. Right down inside their own 10.
And these next three tackles are the most important New Zealand's had to come up with at the moment, because they're in the right end of the field for the Kiwis. They've got to be able to back it up with defence.
Good run from Clyde. Once again, Steve Walters, it is 8 or 10 metres every time he goes.
And he is playing perfect with the football.
Yeah, I think the New Zealanders are making a mistake by not getting on him.
Fiddler tries to set it up for Hancock. He knows the pass just wasn't quite on, but they nearly had them out wide.
Bit of a concern for New Zealand. Little Alfie Langer goes around Brent Todd as if he's not there.
Langer's having a big first 40.
Well, that's because the New Zealand forwards in particular are standing back. They're waiting.
Gary Freeman down for attention.
I think the thing about Steve Walters getting out of dummy half, I mean, that's where the New Zealanders have got to look at. They've got to say, we've got to stop this dummy half running, because it's no good a player firing out of the marker position to the first receiver if the dummy half can run. Number one job, stop the dummy half runner.
This is likely to be Freeman's final test match on home soil. Everyone's expecting him to retire at the end of the Kiwis tour of Great Britain this year. Freeman. Watson. The cracker runs to the gap, but Willie Kahn comes off his wing as we go inside the last 10 minutes. Mercer.
John mentions the dummy half running of Steve Walters. I think Dwayne Mann's got to do the same sort of thing. That is how they get the roll on.
He was listening, but he doesn't have
New
the
Zealand
same sort of success.
New Zealand must run in numbers. They're running one out at the moment. The Australians are taking the ball up with options, and New Zealand aren't.
Brent Todd was in front of the kicker. The rest were not. McCracken, can he get it back? He takes it over the sideline. They just couldn't control it in the end, but they are cross-kicking. Second time they've gone from the right to the left.
Yeah, it's another cross kick for Hoppy's wing, and the ball in the air, the ball on the ground, it's all going to be trouble for wingers and fullbacks trying to come up with the ball.
Shearer comes up with it from the scrum. Langer switches it. Heard a call from Daly. The Australians playing good football in difficult conditions.
But they have had things their own way so far, Graham. They've had a very good start to the game. They have played ideal wet weather football, and the Kiwis have got to put them under pressure and see how they handle the situation.
New Zealand can't get a flow of possession. Clive, a little bit of a mix-up. Sirenen there to pick up the dregs. Last tackle. The kick will allow plenty of chasing time. It was perfectly placed. Edwards, driven sideways by Meninga. Freeman, run around with Hoppy. New Zealand looking to the break. Willie Kahn and Freeman with a bit of a disagreement as Todd takes it to the line. Solomona looking to take on the big Australian pack. 40 metres out from his own line. A real mess in the play of the ball. It comes back for Gavin Hill to strongly go into Australia's half. Last tackle against New Zealand. Freeman. This time he splits Hancock and Shearer. Down to the in goal. Hancock will have to play at it. Halligan's got him. Only metres out. Shearer takes his time to allow his team to get back. Russell Smith will ask for somebody else to play it. No, he doesn't need to. Clyde.
Good enthusiastic chasing out of the marking from the Kiwis. That is better defence.
Lender. Steve Walters grabbed. It is only just outside the Australian 20 as they will look to Shearer. Didn't quite get a good kick in. Halligan has it. This might be about the best chance in the first half for New Zealand. Freeman. Edwards. Stepping, trying to get to the inside of Meninga, but Langer was there. Freeman goes back the other way to Kemp. Kemp looking wide, couldn't get it there. Right on halfway, New Zealand. Freeman looking for a runner inside. The Australian defence everywhere. Sirenen hurt in the tackle. Solomona takes a strong tackle down low from Harrigan. One more left for New Zealand. Dwayne Mann kicking, but it goes straight to Hancock. And Hancock goes clear. Hancock will take on Morven Edwards. Caught from behind by Mercer. Penalty to the Australians. They try and catch them out wide. Daly, New Zealand in real trouble. One bad kick, and they have put themselves under pressure. Great run from Hancock. Langer inside. Sirenen. Sirenen inches away. Steve Walters to Langer. To Daly. To Meninga. to Clyde, who grabbed the first try. Back in. Was Meninga interfered with? Doesn't matter. Willie Kahn grabs the second try as the world champions gain a very big advantage. Kahn picked up the loose ball. They were stretched.
Well, they've been stretched down the left-hand side of the field. Good backline play now. Australia creating havoc, having Bradley Clyde run out amongst the backs. That's the key. He's been looming up out there all the time. The ball knocked down by Kemp there. Regained there by Willie Kahn. A good, fair Australian try.
Yeah, here we see the ball coming nice and wide. I thought Willie Kahn was a little slow to come off his wing. I thought he was needed on the inside a little earlier than that. The ball was knocked down by a New Zealand player, and Willie Kahn in.
Willie Kahn grabs a bit of spray. 24 years of age, Kahn, and his third try against New Zealand. The winger from the Brisbane Broncos. The crowd, not a lot to cheer about for New Zealand, since the possession has continued to favour the Australians. Shearer will have this kick from a very similar position to the conversion of the Bradley Clyde try. 2 from 3 for him. Can he do it again? He will not. He leaves it out wide, but the Australian captain has a good, confident eye on the board. 12-2. Back to halfway, and Graham Lowe shattered by the second try, that one by Kahn.
Yeah, well, it was a big blow against the Kiwis, but they've got to respond. They've just got to respond. I've mentioned a couple of times already, the New Zealand forwards have got to come up with big hits. They've got to come up with good driving defence, because the Australians are getting on top round the middle. They're playing good wet weather football, hitting it on the advantage line, getting the roll on. They've got the Kiwis under pressure in that area, and they've had it all game.
Steve Walters, again a headache. Missed tackles. 10-0, a shutout in that area.
That, to me, was the main concern going into this game. Their defence in the first game, I believe, wasn't up to it. But they can come right. They have been under enormous pressure. They've just got to get themselves back into the game and inspire one another.
Langer. Now, the penalty might go to Australia, or does it? Langer was suggesting he took a forearm, but Russell Smith said no, the Langer tackle was too high. At least he's consistent in an area where both camps are looking for him to be strong.
Yeah, here's Alan Langer. He's not very big, Alan Langer, so he must have had to get up right up on his toes to execute a tackle like that. Got to keep your tackles down.
John, I think New Zealand's just got to lift their intensity a little. They seem to have dropped off. That last try, without any doubt, shattered them. And all it's done is, well, the penalties there going 5-3 in Australia's favour. But Australia has stepped up a gear throughout the game as it's gone on, and New Zealand's dropped down.
Well, earlier we saw the tackles in the opposition half, 33 to Australia and 1 to New Zealand. And that sort of thing, as you said at the time, it wasn't having a great effect. But later in the game, the legs start to get tired, and those sort of stats start to come home.
The penalties will get a little closer. New Zealand with the chance to go down deep. We are but seconds away from the half-time break. New Zealand. Russell Smith stops the clock. Todd. They may not have enough time for the full set of 6, New Zealand. Just outside the 20. Freeman. McCracken. Just outside the 20 still. Mercer gets away from Linda, does not get away from Sirenen. Freeman trying to rush it. They know they are running out of time. Kemp, good quick hands. Nikau out wide. Taken and put down by Daly. Last tackle. They will just get it in. Freeman forces the knock-on from Meninga. Gavin Hill and Meninga come together.
Well, finally something's gone New Zealand's way, but that's because they've been able to hang on to the ball. They've had Australia under a bit of pressure, forced an error there. I think I might have seen a little bit of a knee going in that situation as well.
Well, our clock appears to be quite wrong at the moment as Kemp goes to the end goal. Willie Kahn just puts it dead. Clever variation. They haven't had much possession. And Willie Kahn comes up with the save of the night.
But you can do these sort of things when you do have field position. That's why the Kiwis have got Australia under pressure at the moment. But great work then to defuse it.
He beat Watson, and now the clock finally does beat New Zealand. Impressive first half to the world champions, the Australians. Had a strong scoreline their way. 12-2.
Here in the second test between Australia and New Zealand. Very impressive first 40 for the Australians, but they have had the lion's share of possession. We've given a reprieve to Michael O'Connor from the cold on the sideline to bring him up under the lights. Mick, it was a great first half for the Australians.
Tremendous first half, particularly for the Australians. Bob Fulton will be well pleased at half-time. 12-2, a good scoreline in these conditions, but they've had all the possession, they've had all the field position, they haven't missed a tackle. New Zealand, on the other hand, have come up with 10 missed tackles, but New Zealand have had to do twice as many tackles as Australia, and that's a telling blow.
Well, it didn't start on a good note for the Australians. There was a real chance on in the opening minutes for New Zealand through Tony Kemp.
Started playing a little bit negative. I would certainly not muck around. I'd get John Lomax straight on the field out there immediately. He handles this sort of situation. He's one of Canberra's key players. I think he can gain a bit of authority in the middle for New Zealand. That's what's lacking from them at the moment. Like, Australia's just riding roughshod over the Kiwi forwards, and they're going to get a hammering if they don't stop that rot setting in.
Well, very impressive display by the Australians. The New Zealanders have all the work to do here in the second half at Palmerston North in Kiwiland. We will see you back across the Tasman right after this break.
To fatal shark attacks continues to horrify us. Channel 7
presents. They have the huge advantage. And Meninga again, Graham Lowe laying down the law.
Well, he's a great captain, Mal Meninga. They know that they've got a big advantage. All they've got to do out now is go out and defend. They just need to defend that big lead that they do have. And it is a big lead in these conditions.
Possession, all flowed their way. But it was a power game, and they have powered ahead of the Kiwis.
Yeah, they certainly have. But they've run out of dummy half particularly well, and that gives the big guys a platform to follow up that good run that they've been getting out of dummy half. And if I was a New Zealand coach, I'd say, hey, let's shut down this dummy half runner.
Gary Freeman with a lot on his mind and a big weight on his shoulders. The New Zealanders, 40 minutes ahead to climb back. It is a long, long way to come. The statistics tell a sorry tale. They were forced to make 127 first half tackles. The Australians 64, Mercer a massive 19, Hill just one behind, Bobby Linda by comparison, and Steve Walters only having to come up with 10 and 9. Meninga's influence has been very important. Just stretches up, and it's worked well with Daly back at 5'8". Brad Mackay off the bench to start the second 40. We await a fairly important man, the referee. We've got the two teams. Russell Smith. Just a little late. Referee talking to the Australians about squaring up in the play of the ball in the marker area. Not quite happy that they weren't directly in front in that situation. He goes back and reminds the captain about it, saying that he's going to crack down. We have an ear on the plate of the referee. And now he sends us down to the final 40 on an icy night in Palmerston North. Solomona loses it right from the start. New Zealand under pressure. Langer, they rush away. Clyde, back inside for Shearer. Backs to the wall again. Just what New Zealand did not need. Daly to go wide. They need a big six in defence. They rushed up and forced the Australians back about 15 metres. Lindner from dummy half runs well. Back on the inside for Fittler. He finishes 10 metres away. Langer is very wide. Behind the line. Well read. Right on the spot. Morgan Edwards.
Worst possible start for New Zealand with turning that ball over in the first tackle of the game. They had to do 127 tackles in the first half, and it looks like they're going to rack up another 127 this half.
They were looking for a good break. They don't get it as the Australians, right from the start, try to find overdrive.
Graham, Brad Mackay is on for Paul Sirenen, who's been replaced with a bad sore back.
Solomona. You saw that just before half-time when he was making a tackle. The kick is on to Shearer, but it is still play on inside New Zealand territory. This game is being played at one end of the field. Daly, Willie Kahn, they rush up, that is bustling defence. Lazarus. It is relentless at the moment. It is a green and gold machine driving away. Walters again. Too much room from dummy half.
But notice he's running with options. He's not just running one out.
Daly, Shearer, Langer, the jink, the step, and even a little bit of strength from a little man. Daly, bombing away. This will definitely have ice on it for Edwards. Stands his ground.
That tackle looked high from Mal Meninga.
Now Edwards is down. The Kiwis were calling for the high tackle. Crowd do not like it. 12 metres out now. Todd. They've been looking for a breather. They get it. This will give them the chance. Very tough time since half-time.
Well, it hasn't been a tough time for the Kiwis. They've got to regather their troops, regather their senses, and come up with some good positive play. Gary Freeman there, he knows they're under the hammer. Toddy also got a lead by example from up the front.
Solomona drives away up the middle. Mercer.
I still think they're not running out of dummy half enough, Graham. They've got to run out of dummy half. They've got to dart. They've got to just try and disorganise this well-drilled Australian marker defence.
A better variation from Gavin Hill as Tia Rapati gets a warm-up call. Watson. Watson loses an easy one.
That's more enterprising play, though, by New Zealand. They're starting to put on a few options. They're starting to change the angles a little bit, put a bit of doubt in the opposition's mind. Because one thing's for sure, their forwards aren't big enough and strong enough to be able to get through this Australian pack. They're not getting the momentum that Australia are.
Meninga gets rid of McCracken. 42 metres out. Now Lindner, still short of their own halfway. Langer uses a decoy runner to go to Mackay. McCracken covered in mud. Steve Walters. This is a repeat so far of the first 40. Langer trying to find some space. He's worrying the New Zealanders with his variation. Hoppy, not the same sort of opportunities as last Sunday at Mount Smart in Auckland. Crown trying to lift the home side.
And they're trying to remind the referee, the Australian defence, while it's working very well, at times it's given itself a good start.
This time he grabs them. He couldn't hear the 19,000 here at Palmerston North, but somehow he heard Graham Love.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he didn't hear that, I was going to get up and yell out to him.
I'm not suggesting New Zealand hit the panic button yet, but they've got to start giving the ball a bit of air. OK, they've tried to play Australia up the middle. It's not working. Now's the time to give it a bit of air.
They wait for the reappearance of the ball.
All their good positive play in the first test came from wide play. Morven Edwards there, sad sight coming off. He's had a good game under pressure so far, Morven. Had 3 or 4 players running at him all night.
Time. Must be a tired pack of New Zealand forwards. They've got to dig deep. Still got to find something strong to get to the line. Solomona. They need the ball to come back into their own. The ball is stolen. Is it still alive? 6 more for New Zealand. Now, the referee goes to a touch judge to come up with a knock-on call against the Kiwis.
Yeah, here you see Wallace strike for the ball and they play the ball. Yeah, a fellow was knocked on there by Dwayne Mann, and it's a tough break again for New Zealand. Not a lot of things going their way.
Well, I'll tell you what, Graham, you might think I'm biased from saying this, but the referee laid down the rule at half-time there. He told both sides he wanted them marking squarely. That wasn't marked squarely, that ball. It should have been a penalty to New Zealand.
I'd have to agree with Graham there. I thought that he wasn't marking up squarely, and there should have been a penalty to New Zealand.
Telecom Mobile.
In his possible last appearance on Kiwi soil. Harrigan. Still the arm wrestle. Favours the Australians down the middle. Clyde.
Interesting to see Watson now playing in the fullback role. They're bound to put a good kick up to him and put him under pressure and just see how good he is at it.
Daly tries to find a hole out on the fringe. Langer. Shearer. Kicks. Was it played at? Not back, said Russell Smith against Lazarus. It is still late in the count. Now it is the last. Langer to Meninga to kick ahead. Kicks this one along the deck. Watson. Watson with some room. If they needed something to spark them, they have an opportunity.
Yeah, I watch Watson play fullback a lot in England, and if there's one thing he can do, that's bring the ball back. And if a chasing team isn't on the job and they go down to him in 1s and 2s, he'll bring the ball back and he can bring it back 50 yards.
Rapati gets his first touch. Out to prove a few people wrong after being put back to the bench from the first test. Dwayne Mann quickly to Freeman. Freeman not a good kick, and to an open wing to Hancock. This was danger in the first half. It was very nearly danger here. Shearer nearly always up in the front line. Right on halfway
we've got the good example of the problem with the New Zealand defence, all waiting for Harrigan. He's a big, strong runner, causes all sorts of havoc when you do need him. If you wait back, it's a nightmare.
Good inside ball from Shearer. Now outside from Mackay. And Hancock takes 3 defenders to the 20 metres on the last tackle. Langer. Big test for Watson. Big test for Hoppy. What a climb by Willie Kahn. Back to the 20, says the Kiwis. Now, Russell Smith says it will be a restart right under the posts. Well, you can argue whether Kahn had it at first and then Hoppy grabbed it.
I think New Zealand a little unfortunate there on 2 occasions. One, I believe Willie Kahn was offside at the kick. And 2 was touch and go whether they're in goal or not.
He was adamant, Russell Smith. Now it's Australia with a chance to motor again.
He's certainly a marvellous athlete, though, Willie Kahn, to be able to get up like that. It was nearly a try reminiscent of a no-try in 1972. Australia versus France in a World Cup final with Graham Langland.
New Zealand going to have to be very careful here, Graham. They are getting up in front of the referee. Without any doubt, they're offside.
Right on the 20. They have to get back and up off deck quickly. Steve Walters. Linder. Put down this time by Willie Kahn. New Zealand with an important scrum feed.
Well, great defence from the New Zealand then. That good, strong defence forced the error. That was the key. Good, strong defence.
Yeah, it's that the hooker getting out of there again, and Bobby Linder forced the ball out there. The pass was never on. They still had another tackle up their sleeve.
Right on the 20, 7-2 Australia with the scrums. Still under pressure, though, even though they are in possession to bring it away. Todd.
They're under pressure because they're at the wrong end of the field. They've got to get better field position.
Not able to support each other enough through the forwards. They must be tired with all the tackling they have done. Mercer runs strongly.
Well, they've got Johnny Lomax sitting on the bench. I'd be bringing him on right now.
Freeman cops a very high one. Now Freeman, to his credit, was quickly to his feet. The crowd, incited by the incident, Russell Smith keeps his cool, so does Freeman.
Yeah, we see Mackay. He's hitting a little high. He's held on, you know, the tackle was high. I don't feel it's a sending off offence, but it was a high tackle and deserved the penalty.
A commendable action there by the little halfback, Gary Freeman. He got straight to his feet. A lot of other players would have stayed down and really milked it, but, I mean, that's a sign of a true sportsman.
Well, it's a line ball, and I think we've got to think about Winfield Cup. Michael, would that have been a send-off in the Winfield Cup?
I'd have to say yes, Graham.
I believe it would have been a send-off in the Winfield Cup. It was high, it was straight around the throat.
Mackay's still out there. We've still got 26. And again, we might have to call for some extra ball boys.
Well, Graham Lowe, when are New Zealand going to go to their backs? I mean, you talk about field position, but they're unable to get it through hitting it up the forwards the way they are at the moment. They've got to start giving the ball a bit of air shortly, surely.
Yeah, well, they do. That's the way they turned Australia around in the first test. Even in their own quarter, they spun the ball out wide. That's what they've got to do.
Watson! They spill it, they put it down. Beautifully executed the move. They had the support players. It was just a final ball that was low and difficult to handle. Australia with a quick scrum, and Daly picks up about 15 metres. Shearer. Referee screaming for Shearer to get up and play it. Now Lazarus back to the defence, but he still picks up metres over the 50. Fittler. The Australians, no doubt, were stung at Mount Smart Stadium last Sunday. They've come back with some of their best. Meninga kicking, it will be too strong. 12-2. Australia lead. Hoppy takes them 30 metres out.
Brent Todd is one forward that's making continual ground over the advantage line.
Tony Kemp. John Lomax gets that call to warm up again. Freeman with a ball that was a bit of a pressure one to Mercer. He had plenty of defenders just sweating on him.
But I think now's when they should just open it straight up.
Watson. Watson with a clever ball.
That's the one.
McCracken. Out to Sean Hoppy. Not a good ball. But they are starting to come to life. Gavin Hill with a kick that might be too strong. It is. McCracken needed the good ball for Hoppy. It was low and behind him.
Yeah, it's a nice long ball here, and just got to take a chance every now and then. That's what they've done. One of the forgotten guys of the test, McCracken, and Fittler on the other side. They haven't seen enough ball tonight.
Left it too late, McCracken.
Well, it was good enterprising play. That's what got them good plaudits in that first test. Every time Australia comes up with a big hit, all they need to do is open it out wide and disorganise the Australian defence.
The change has been made with Lomax out there and getting involved Gavin Hill, the man who has gone back to the bench.
Lomax might offer a little bit stiffer defence around that ruck area. I've been very critical. I'm going to be critical of the New Zealand props around the marker area. They're not moving up quick enough, and Lomax already getting heavily involved in the defensive work.
Mackay plays it. Fittler has a charge down. Watson gets it. The flow of play just breaking a little more for New Zealand. Good charge down. Rapati forced the turnover. Freeman, this crowd coming alive. Watson loses it. Meninga's there. Hoppy's there. Hoppy wins out. Mercer. Big efforts coming in this second 40 for New Zealand from the likes of Watson and Mercer, who are trying to spark things up. Todd takes it 40 metres out. Last tackle. Freeman bombs away, sends it down some distance. Shearer gets hammered. Quite a courageous take. Hancock straight across the paddock. Chased, put down by Lomax.
Yeah, it's a great take. Dale Shearer doesn't take his eyes off the ball, and if I could be critical of both sides, the attackers haven't attacked that ball in the air. They've left it hanging up there for the fullbacks to catch, and somebody else has got to go for the ball, or good fullbacks will catch them all the time.
Shearer gets his return in, and there is plenty of chasing down on Dave Watson. Fittler, Daly, Clyde, Langer. Watson tries to get the outside. Too many. Great chase. Deep kick from Shearer. Halligan. New Zealand has to come a long way back. Rapati takes it to the 20. Kemp inside to McCracken. Gets rid of one. McCracken gets rid of two. Gets it out for Kemp. Kemp inside to Freeman. What a try! Gary Freeman sends this test into a real showdown. The world champs will again have to look over their shoulder. Forget about the conditions. This is a stunner. This is a magnificent rugby league try.
Well, great work from the Kiwis here. This is what was required McCracken changing the angle, getting a ball, good ball from Kemp, shows his strength, shows his pace, shrugging off a couple of tacklers there. Great work again from Kemp to back up, getting himself in position, staying alive. Gary Freeman, he's the inspiration for this Kiwi side. He had to come up with something, and he's done it. He's put it under the black dot. How do you like that, Mr. Hughes?
Magnificent try. Freeman, who has had a very long test career, has had to wait a long time at 31 years of age to pick up his first try against Australia. Halligan from right in front. We've got a big test on our hands at Palmerston North. Look out. Plenty of rugby league left here in front of the capacity house. 12-8. Back up for grabs.
We were critical just not a long time ago of New Zealand not going to the backs earlier, trying to work it out through the forwards. Twice they've gone to their backs inside their own half, and twice they've come up with big plays, both involving McCracken, the second one involving a try to Gary Freeman.
Well, 19,000 here on a night that has struggled to raise above 5 or 6 degrees. We've had rain for hours before the kickoff. To the Kiwi fans, to the fans here in Palmerston North, they deserve a big rap as well. What a play, John Moning.
Yeah, Jared McCracken, he's kicked out of a few tackles there. Tony Kemp very selective there. Outside or inside, good inside ball to Freeman. Freeman does the rest. Great try. We've got a ball game on our hands and the crowd's come alive.
We sure have got a ball game. And now we've finally got a ball that has come back to halfway. Meninga will have to pick up his world champs again. They were well and truly online. They were doing it well. But the Kiwis, after having to defend for so long, have found a try that has put this test up on the line.
And that man Lomax has made a tremendous difference since he's been on the field.
The Kiwis looking for a roll. Todd. Straight into the line. Lazarus with a good tackle. Lomax takes a turn in attack and takes them nearly to the 40. Under pressure. And Watson runs into some space. They've already got plenty of numbers down there. Shearer will think about returning the kick.
Andrew Eddinghausen just starting to warm up on the sideline, so look for an early replacement soon.
Shearer with a mile of time down to Watson, who will allow it to bounce. Halligan will put it down deep. That's a good kick to the pocket, right down to the corner. Shearer runs this one. Now New Zealand will storm in, trying to force the mistake.
Well, that was a good kick, all right, from Halligan, because not only did he kick it, he chased it, and he put all the New Zealand defenders onside.
Hancock with a good run.
He's having a good game tonight, Michael Hancock. He's a real handful in these conditions.
Meninga from dummy half, easy. Meninga down to Freeman. He shows him the sideline, but the big man stays in. Eddinghausen tries to get out there. Langer to Fittler. Fittler steps again. They let him go. Now he will play at 32 out. Langer. Langer behind the line. Right in midfield. Freeman and Langer come together. Daly looks for another field goal. Not this time. Out wide, Hoppy just allows it to go dead.
In the other test, in the first test, New Zealand's big problem in that test was they let Australia come back straight after they'd scored points. And they've just held on there, and that's probably a good sign from New Zealand.
Shearer goes to the bench. Eddinghausen at fullback. Dwayne Mann wins a little duel with Steve Walters. Freeman inside to Nikau. Hit strongly by Clyde, then finished off by Harrigan.
I think Nikau would be better off staying out wider. Gary Freeman giving them the ball 2 or 3 off the side off the ruck. They're the tactics that should be used at the moment. This Australian defence down the middle, they're all monsters and they're working well tonight. We've already shown out wide, that's where the opportunities are for the Kiwis.
Willie Kahn. Michael O'Connor, not an easy one for a man like Ettinghausen to be sitting there so long sideline, then to get out there.
No, but he's done it before, and he's a big match player. I'm sure he'll do it again. Mal Meninga's really got to come into the game, as has Laurie Daly. He's been quiet in the first test and pretty quiet up until now. Another player, Fittler. I mean, these players have now got to get involved. The forwards have laid a good foundation. They've got to start doing something.
Steve Walters showed it inside. McCracken was there, got it to Meninga, looks forward. Last tackle. The Kiwis starting to grow a leg. Langer looks for the sideline. He settles it down with a fine kick. Langer showed all his experience. About 14 minutes remaining.
The kick there from Alfie Langer, that was what was required from Australia. Howie Carmody certainly looks on the edge there, having a bit of a powwow. But the Kiwis have got to respond with good wide passing. A very short defensive line there, as you can see from the Australian outside backs, does offer inviting opportunities out wide.
The rain is tumbling down again. Thankfully, it had stayed away for most of the game. Now Lomax right up the middle.
Well, he's a very deceptive player, Lomax, not a very tall man, but very strong on his feet.
Russell Smith gets the Australians back at Big Ten. Down for Ettinghausen. Off his head. Gary Freeman gets a free ride. Hancock.
Probably
Again, it's Freeman.
New Zealand probably be better off kicking out of the dummy half area, I think, or up from the line. They're throwing the ball back 20 metres. They could have been 20 metres further down the field if they were kicking from further up in the line.
Langer switches. Langer! Nearly gone. Just grabbed by Mercer. Steve Walters loses it. He got it back in the end.
Well, I think New Zealand very fortunate here because Nikau, I believe, had a crack at the ball.
Steve Walters looked as though he might have been held back as well, but that rain is really tumbling down. Halligan. Mud, sweat and tears tonight in Palmerston North. But for who? Is it going to be the Kiwis or the Kangaroos? Dwayne Mann. Absolutely covered in it. Lazarus, eyes on the opposite, Todd. This time they're taken by Clyde and Harrigan. New Zealand looking for a try to lock us up. 30 metres out. Todd again. The play is opened up to a big back line. Freeman. Kemp. They go to the midfield. Freeman again. Floating. Watson. McCracken, who has been a handful. And still. He gets pulled back. It'll be a penalty. He was pulled back by Lazarus. There was the knock on there before it.
Yeah, I thought he knocked the ball on before he was actually pulled back. He got some penalties like this in the first test. He places the ball down on the way up, which gives him a start, but that's where the fumble has come in.
Still got pulled back out of it. Russell Smith stayed with the original knock on. They need some mistakes from the Australians. They're trying to force one at this end.
We're well into the last quarter of this game, Graham, and there's a lot of talent in this Australian side. The experience that they all bring with them.
A high tackle against Nikau.
The experience it brings with them should add to a big advantage here. I don't think there was a lot of Nikau jumping up. Bit of a nitpicking penalty in my opinion, but that's through black and white eyes.
Just like the Ferrari.
They go right down to the line. The New Zealanders are talking. They've got a renewed enthusiasm at the moment. Australia a little bit slower to get back into position, and they're just trying to wind down the clock a bit, which is a concern.
Again, the delay from the sidelines.
Michael, do you think the Australians should keep throwing the ball wide?
Well, they haven't been, Graham. In the second half, they've been contentious to take it up the middle. They showed early in the first half that they were prepared to throw the ball wide.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They threw it wide early, and that's when they made all their breaks. This second half, they seem to have come down the middle.
Yeah, I'd agree with that assessment.
Harrigan. 35 metres out. Mackay. Time for New Zealand. Australia trying to count the clock down. They are at the right end at the moment. Langer rushes the short side. Langer. Fine game from the Queensland halfback. One more tackle. Fittler will bomb away. Should be too easy into the end goal. Halligan stands his ground. Quick restart. New Zealand have met with success going wide. Watson to Tony Kemp. Does well to stay in the field of play. Solomona. Right near halfway. Freeman. Watson. Bad ball. Halligan goes back for it. And they lose a lot of territory. Short side. Nikau. It is all the way back, and Australia will have possession. Not a good set of six for New Zealand.
No, that's always a problem when you play a very, very deep back line in your own half. A little bit of poor execution, you come up with a big loss. And you know, they've got to take a few chances. They've got to give the ball some air, but, you know, the back line on that occasion was just too deep.
Daly. Meninga. Mackay came on at half-time. Clive. Steve Wallace. Langer. Loose ball. Daly gets it. Tudor tried to get there quickly. Meninga. He forced the Australians wide to the sideline last tackle. Daly wants it. Midfield. Watson rushes up. And Watson gets it. And Russell Smith says Brad Fittler was inside the 10 in front of the kicker. Halligan just manages to reach the sideline. Watson has had a strong second half. Todd still powering up the middle. New Zealand lose it just when they don't need to. They give it back on early tackles.
Well, that was a critical turnover from New Zealand. They really needed to hold on to possession there. And Australia, I think, will just play out their tackles and play field position, and they should be in a position now to win this game with only 5 or 6 minutes on the clock.
Langer. Langer nearly getting behind the line again. Steve Walters. Last tackle against the Australians. Langer, Meninga chips ahead for Eddinghausen, and Eddinghausen is ruled offside along with Clyde. Clyde can't believe it, shakes his head. Wasn't sure if Eddinghausen overrun it. He was the player I was more concerned with. Bobby Lindner in what could be his last test match for Australia on foreign soil. Is there time? Solomona inside the last 5. Freeman wide. Lomax out to Hoppy. Hoppy straightens. They're 32 out. Kent inside. Watson. Freeman bums away. Mercer is in front of the kicker. Tudor's there. The ball's loose. It will be a line dropout, a restart. Tudor went down. I wasn't sure if he was knocked over. They're back inside their own end goal.
I think the referee's under a lot of pressure at the moment because, I don't know how you saw it, John, I thought the Australian outside backs were well up offside in that last lot of 6 tackles. A lot of pressure on the referee.
Well, it's come down to, you know, there's a couple of minutes to win the game here or lose the game, and, you know, I hope it's not done by an incorrect decision by a referee.
Tudor fumbles. Freeman looked despondent. Australia out near a sideline. They were thinking about showing him, but Lazarus stays well in field.
And he has been one of Australia's best, Lazarus. Got them over the advantage line, but not only that, he's managed to play the ball quickly.
This is where they have to make it count. They've got to force a short kick from Australia. They've got to have pressure on the kicker. Harrigan with a big run. And a great ball. Likewise, Alan Langer. Australia trying to finish it with a try. Trying to put paid to it. Langer on the 20. Fittler. Daly. Taken by Mercer, who has tried non-stop. Langer. Stepping. Back up the middle. Beats a second man. Kicks to the in goal. But it's back to the 20. We're down to the wire. There are few chances remaining. 12-8 to Australia. They have had a real struggle on their hands again. Solomona. They keep it alive. Kent to Watson, who has been a danger. Watson with great stepping. They found some holes again, but they lose it. Jason Donnelly out there. Dying minutes. Bad ball at the end again.
Well, they've got to play catch-up football. They did find the holes. They found the space. But unfortunately, the balls didn't stick.
We've got somebody in the blood bin, Solomona. This will force somebody back out there. Now, Solomona can't stay. Referee should be checking whether he has to stay off for good. Now, is he happy that the blood has stopped? He is. Langer has had a tremendous second half. Australia just where they want to be. New Zealand have to go a long way, and the clock is ticking away. Lazarus, who? Well, I was going to say, would Watson be able to stop him? He was put off balance by Tudor. Daly! Daly! Beautiful ball! It's gone! Right at the death. This is unbelievable. We've got a crowd standing along the sideline. Somebody has got to start thinking about some security over here. We've got spectators all over the sideline, but we've got a great Australian try.
Well, Mark this try down to Glenn Lazarus. He's the one who charged onto the ball, set up the initial break, but Laurie Daly capitalising on a great backline play that they do possess, the Australian team, throwing a great long pass out there to Michael Hancock, but as you say, the spectators too close there.
Great ball out from Daly. This has been a real test of character for the Australians after last Sunday as well. Great second half from New Zealand, but an equally strong finish to the line by the world champions. Meninga to take over the kick from right out on the sideline.
Well, world champions is a name they carry very proudly, Australia. They are the world champions. They've got the best players in the world. It was a gallant effort from New Zealand tonight, but unfortunately they couldn't get enough field position. That's been the thing that's killed them in the air.
Meninga drags it well to the left. 16-8. Now Freeman is speaking to the referee. Can you believe it? A test match might be called off by the captains. Dying moments of the game. Freeman is going to recommend that we leave the field for the end. Now, what's happening? How much time is left? They're probably discussing. There is only seconds remaining. Gary Freeman shaking hands. Unfortunately, for what has been a gripping second half, we're going to end it in a disgrace. Who's going to make a decision out here? The referee is explaining to the captains. He knows it's probably silly, but he's got to play to the 80 minutes. Lowy, you haven't got any spare balls in the back of your car.
Yeah, well, I have, I suppose, but I don't think I can kick one down that far.
Quite amazing.
One thing for sure, Graham, I think we're going to have a great crowd at Lang Park next Wednesday night. It has been a good performance by the Kiwis.
The roar, as you would expect, is for a little piece of leather. Daryl Halligan has a mate somewhere who's found one. There is 5 seconds to play out, and the last 5 seconds has taken about 6 minutes. There's going to be one tackle, and then we're off the field. The crowd is all inched to the sideline. Let's hope they give the players some room. They'd like to pay tribute to 19,000 who have turned up in unbelievable conditions. But security and control will come under scrutiny again, just as it did at the finish at Mount Smart Stadium. The kick is in from Daly. Apparently this was also the story against Great Britain in the home series last season. Someone's got to take a hand. The players look as though they're going to have to battle to the dressing rooms. Great comeback from New Zealand. The players try and rush off the ground. And And a real test at Palmerston North for the world champs again. Lang Park will be a tough one also next Wednesday night. 16-8.
Palmerston North, well, it really was a test of character for the world champions, the Australians, tonight. They came up with the goods. They got to the line very strongly, even encountering a remarkable second-half comeback from the Kiwis. Let's take you down to the Australian dressing room and Pat Welsh with Paul Harrigan.
Well, Paul, hard to separate the entire forward pack. It was a heroic effort, but you've come up with more than 30 tackles in conditions like that. A great match.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy. It was a hard match, and just the win at the end there was quite relieving. It was real hard in that second half, believe me, and mate, I'm happy with the tackle count.
You saw that rain come in at around 1:30 this afternoon. You must have thought, well, I'm in for a big, long, hard night.
Yeah, we did. It just didn't stop all day, and it was continuous. We knew it was going to be hard. And as soon as they get their tails up, they're very, very hard, particularly in the conditions. And, mate, let me tell you, it was just a great relief to win and a very, very good feeling.
Now, what about your handling in the wet? It was sensational tonight.
Mate, well, that's something I've been trying to concentrate on, is handling. Of course, in our first test, handling was a problem with us, and we all sort of, looked towards, correcting it, and we did. And went a long way in the first half to setting us up for the second half,
We haven't spoken about it too much this week, but that hip has been giving you a bit of problem, hasn't it? It's been painful for you.
Mate, I've had some serious physio on it all through the week. It's a funny injury. It doesn't restrict me too much when I run, but it's just painful all the time. And when I land on it, it's painful again. Had some good strapping on it, and as I said, plenty of physio. Mate, I got through it.
All right, congratulations. A great game tonight. I think I better let you go while the water's still hot in the showers.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
He certainly does. He is a very tough man, Paul Harrigan, and also tough as the Australian coach himself, Bobby Fulton. He had to wear all the pressure going into this one. They've done it before, and they came back with another win to sort of wrap up a deciding match. They were the defenders of the Trans-Tasman Trophy. Let's take you again back down to a busy Pat Walsh with the Australian coach.
Well, Bob Fulton, you wanted better ball control tonight. You got it, and they were tough conditions.
Yeah, the ball control they put on tonight was probably equivalent to what you'd expect on a dry day, and we only dropped 9 balls out of 45 lots of possession. And when you look at what we came up with the other day in relatively dry conditions at Mount Smart, I mean, it was a huge improvement. It was a turning point in the game.
That first 40 minutes, they just played sensational football in, as we said, atrocious conditions.
Yeah, but not only was our ball control good and our lateral movement, our length of the field movement was good, but our defence was absolutely outstanding. And I mean, they carried that into the second half and really one missed tackle, and they scored that try by Gary Freeman under the post. But superb performance, and when you look at the 14-all draw in the first test at Mount Smart, and you look at the 16-8 scoreline today, I think we're a little bit better than 16-8.
Yeah, now I know you don't like to single anyone out, so let's not, but let's put big raps on your forward pack tonight.
Yeah, they played as a unit, and not that they didn't the other day either. As I said, I mean, the other day we had 4 players well over 100 metres gained during the game in their hit-ups. And when you look at it tonight, we've got 5 out of the 6 that have made well over 100, and it just gives you an indication of how powerful they are, and they've still got that skill and that ability to be able to offload when it's on.
You've had injury worries right the way through the 2 weeks over here. Paul Harrigan's been nursing a little hip injury, but he had a great game tonight.
Yeah, didn't he? I noticed that he was your man of the match, and I think when you have a look at the number of tackles he made and the number of hit-ups, I can see why. And not only that, everything he did was done with power, and he just really intimidated them.
Go to Brisbane and maybe a dry track now.
Yeah, what a beauty.
OK, Bob Fulton, thanks very much. Congratulations.
Certainly was. Congratulations. A fine effort in coming back tonight. Well, there were plenty of stars too for New Zealand, especially in the second half as they stormed back into contention. Let's take you down with Michael O'Connor. Here's with one of their best, Jared McCracken.
Well, I've got New Zealand's player of the match, Jared McCracken, with me. Jared, you must have been delighted with your own performance this evening.
Yeah, I was happy with the limited opportunities I got, and with the conditions, we didn't really get to see the ball much out wide. But I was happy with an all-round game.
What has New Zealand got to do to turn this around and go to Lang Park next week and come up with a win?
Well, we credit to our guys. We coughed up the ball in the first half, and when you're playing against the world champions, you just can't afford to do that. And we were just tackling, all the time in the first half, and we come back in the second half, but you just can't afford to do that against a team like Australia.
Was it your game plan to keep it tight in the first half, or was it, in fact, just to play by ear?
Oh well, we were planning to, hit it up in the forwards, and then have a good kicking game and a good chasing game, and try to pin the Australians down their own 22, and try to force them into an error. But they were up to the task, and we were the ones that ended up, spilling the ball, and you just can't afford to do it.
Well, Jared, congratulations on your own performance. We look forward to seeing you at Lang Park on Wednesday night.
Thanks very much, Warren.
If there is a bonus out of this match for the New Zealanders, they are starting to put together a very talented combination with their Great Britain tour ahead. Disappointment, though, for their captain playing his last match on home soil tonight, Gary Freeman. Let's again take it down to Pat Welsh.
Well, that try really lifted you guys, didn't it?
Not enough, though, Pat, but a little bit disappointing. I thought we had the game in control in the second half, but we just tried to force too many balls in this sort of conditions, and it resulted in us coming out second best.
First half, they had all the field position. Were you worried at the break?
Oh, yeah, I was very worried that they had all the ball, and I think we defended for something like 18 tackles in a row, and they did break our line, but to our credit to our blokes, we did try to hang in there as much as we could, and they really only got away with the game in the last minute again.
That's right. I mean, and that debacle with the ball at the end, that must have upset the whole rhythm.
Well, how many balls did they go through? It was a little bit disappointed, but I suppose when you've got a crowd of this size here, that it's very hard to get the ball back off them.
One draw.
Momentum.
One draw, one loss. You're not out of this series.
No, we're not out of it. We've got to Wednesday night to rectify the mistakes that we did make tonight.
Now, I know you don't like talking about it this time, but this is the last Test match in New Zealand?
Yeah, this was the last Test match, and at least I scored a try. That's one consolation anyway, but very disappointing to come away with a loss.
Emotional for you, I suppose, tonight?
Yeah, a little bit emotional, but, we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
All right, Gary, you gave it your all tonight. Congratulations.
I tried my hardest.
See you in Brisbane.
All right, mate. Cheers. See you later.
Gary Freeman has certainly given his best to this country, a great talent. He wraps up his career. We'll take this short break, then back to wrap up the second test up this second test match between Australia and New Zealand, a match where the Australians really won it in the first 40 minutes when they were very, very impressive. Let's just check that full scoring list for you. Clyde, Kahn, Hancock, the tries, and Michael O'Connor and Graham Lowe, Mick, especially for Australia. They were put to the test, and they came up with the goods.
They did. Bob Fulton said that they didn't change their game plan all that much from the first test. What they did do differently was hold on to the ball. They did that well. They ran good angles in the forwards, and that basically laid the foundation for the win. New Zealand, on the other hand, they were guilty of what Australia did in the first test match. They coughed up too much possession. But to their credit, they came back in the second half. The first half was all Australia's, but they did strike back when they gave the ball a little bit of air, and so they were there were some encouraging signs towards the end of the game. So, I mean, I'm very happy for Australia. It was a good, convincing win.
Well, some encouraging signs also for the New Zealanders, the way they came back in the second 40. They've got a Great Britain tour ahead at the end of the year, and Graham Lowe, they had a real look at it midway through that second 40.
Well, they did, but I don't think they recovered from the first 40. They were just shell-shocked by the great work of the Australian forwards. But coming into Lang Park now, Graham, I honestly believe they've got to go for broke. I think that they should bring Gene Namu straight out of reserve grade, like we've done it before with Kiwi players. Bring him out of reserve grade. He's got a ton of pace, and let him have a crack at these guys. Give him a go. I think Tony Iro is also a player that can make a break. The New Zealand forwards haven't been able to make breaks, and I'd start with Lomax, and I'd find a spot somewhere in the 17 for Jason Lowry.
Some interesting changes for the New Zealanders, maybe Michael O'Connor, but what about Lang Park next Wednesday night in a dry track? Australia more confidently and convincingly?
I think Australia are going to be very hard to beat on Wednesday night. I mean, I agree with Graham. I think that New Zealand should go for broke, maybe make a few changes, but throw the ball around certainly. But Australia, they're going to be tough at Lang Park.
Lowy, what's your feelings as far as Lang Park is concerned and the drier conditions, hopefully, up there?
Well, Kiwis like playing at Lang Park, but they've got to move the ball around. They can't play Australia's type of game. They've got to keep it alive, draw Australia, have them chasing the Kiwis all over the park, and they can do it.
All right, well, we'll bring you all that action of the third test from Lang Park on the 7 Network. Just check your local guides. This Kiwi team really has shown again that international football is alive and well. But it is a great Australian side.